But then at the moment they caught me, I finally had radio again. And Matthew Heyman was on the radio and he was just like, you do not pull a turn, like you sit on, you do not do one turn. But we were coming down the main road at like 65, 70 k an hour. We're flying, like going full gas. And it was so hard to not roll. Like you had to just roll.
This podcast is brought to you by Tri-Velo Coaching, where we help triathletes and cyclists like you train smarter to race faster. I'm your host, Jordan Donnelly, and on my left is former Australian Ironman Champion and head coach of Tri-Velo Coaching, Gerard Donnelly. Kelland O'Brien, at just 24 years old, is already having a track cycling career to remember and has just started his road cycling career on the World Tour circuit. He had his first year last year where he learnt a lot, as he explains in this episode, but he is a very, very promising, talented young cyclist on the road and has already got incredible accolades to his name on the track, including 2 World Championships in the team pursuit, a Commonwealth Games in the team pursuit, gold, and a Olympic bronze, as well as a Junior World Champion title as well. And he is an impressive young rider, but not just physically, mentally. And as you'll hear in this episode, the way he gives insight into his racing and training and how he goes about things, there is a reason that he's been so successful, and you don't get a world champion title for nothing. He grew up in Kew, Victoria. He came from a strong cycling background, and he got a contract with Jayco Alula at the start of the 2022 road season. And Dad, this was just another awesome interview where we are so impressed with this athlete, and he's in the middle of the Spring Classics season right now, and we're going to try and get this episode a little bit earlier than scheduled because we want to get it out before Tour of Flanders and Roubaix happens, and in the middle of a lot of the mini classics as well, because we really want to get this information to you about this guy so you can see some results, and hopefully in this period he has some good results, or at least he can help Jayco have some good results. But what a conversation this was again.
Yeah, what an impressive human being this young man is, and very humble, very driven, very motivated, and knows exactly what he wants to do. He's already had an unbelievably successful career, and anybody who wins a world championship in anything would be almost, their dream come true. And his hunger for more is really evident, and the method that he's going about making his journey as fulfilling as he can, and wanting to make a career for the next 10 years. And he's got goals, towards Brisbane 2032, and everything in between he's already mapped out, and his perspective of how privileged he is it comes through, and he's got a really old head on a young set of shoulders, and super impressive man. We just can't wait to see his season on the track is coming up towards the end of the year with the World Championships, but right now it's all about Spring Classics for him. And as everybody who listens to our podcast knows, we are just in love with the Belgium Spring Classics, and we'll be over there to say hello to him and cheer him on. And hopefully everybody enjoys this episode as much as we did, and it will be fantastic to see how he goes. He did make a selection in one of the races towards last year. He was in the group of 7 in the final. So one of his goals is to try and do that again, and let's see if he does in the next 4 or 5 opportunities that he gets in the month of April. So look forward to hearing your feedback about how good a rider Kell O'Brien is, and watch this space because there's more to come from this talented human being.
Absolutely. Here is the interview with Kelland O'Brien. Kell O'Brien, joining us from Belgium, a place we can't wait to get to see you racing. Thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
The first question we normally like to ask is, what session did you do today? But it's the morning for you. Plus, you've got an interesting week because you're racing Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. It's currently Tuesday. So what session did you do yesterday, and how do you manage a week with 3 races?
So yesterday wasn't the biggest day, but it turned out like it's a big day in terms of, I got up at 3:30 yesterday morning and drove to the airport, and then I had a very early flight to Belgium. I landed in Brussels a bit before 10 a.m. and drove out, kitted up, and then met a mechanic who had a car with all my bike and everything. And then I went and did a recon of E3, which is the race on Friday this week. So I did about 3 hours yesterday with nothing structured. I just more about visually taking in the course. I know the course quite well, but it's always good to see it again. And you know how it is up here. Like, it's left, right, up, down, just very, very hectic. So it's nice to see the course. But yeah, yesterday was a touch under 3 hours, and nothing structured at all.
What's today looking like, Kell?
Today, what are we going to do? I'll do between an hour and a half. Very, very, very easy. I'm quite tired, obviously. Yesterday, getting up at 3:30 in the morning. I still feel a bit tired today, but normally the day before a race, I'll do some activations. I'll do 6 by 30-30s. And then I'll do like between 2 and 3 2-minute efforts after that as well, depending all on feel. I do them all to feel. There's a rough guide that I have of the power that I should do, but I normally do those to feel. But I've done 3 days in a row of kind of niggly harder sessions, so I reckon I'll just take it easy today.
Have you found that over the journey that your pre-race prep has changed a little bit depending on what race is, how long the race is, how many races you got after it? Have you had to sort of manipulate that a little bit across the last year or two? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, especially with the difference in training now, like the way my body feels coming into a race is completely different to how I felt, say, coming into the Olympic Games on the track or something like that. So I find now I like to do a lot more than I used to. In the past, I'd be more than happy to just do 20, 30 minutes on the rollers, super easy, a little build maybe to, zone 2 or zone 3, get a little bit of heart, get your heart rate up, get a bit of a sweat on. Whereas now, like, if you do 6 30-30s and 3 2-minuters, it's actually quite an intense session. And I only started doing that towards the end of last year, and just found I felt really, really good after opening up like that the day before. I guess, like you say, it sort of depends on what the week is looking like and what I've just done as well. So I've obviously had 3 rather intense days, so I'm like, I probably don't need to open up that much.
You'd think it'd be the opposite. You'd think that for a track race, you'd do a bigger thing the day before because it's such a short event, and then these long races you'd do less. Do you think you would now take this pre-day routine back to the track when you go back and race?
Yeah, it was interesting going back to the track at the end of last year and sort of having to try and piece the two together. I hadn't really been on the track in a long time. I think I will take a little bit of that in. I changed my warm-up a little bit and the structure of how I prepared for the team pursuit, say, last year, at the end of last year, after having a full season on the road. I'm actually really lucky to have the physiologist that I work with, my trainer. He's been really, really helpful with stuff like that. We've sort of been building our way into what we think we might do, before a team pursuit, say, with, such a different build to the past. Yeah.
Have you found that since you've been on the road and you've got that road riding ability strength now, has it complemented your track work, and has your track work helped complement your road riding? Take us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the years and years I spent on the track has definitely given me some tools, like weapons, I guess you can say, like for these types of races that I'm about to go into as well. I find there's certain things that the track can give you that is super helpful on the road. But having gone back to the track at the end of last year was such a different feeling, racing the track again with a full season of World Tour road racing in your legs. And yeah, absolutely, it complements the track for sure. Like even not just physically, but having been exposed to the World Tour lead outs and bunch sprints and how hectic, even just lead outs into the bottom of climbs for the GC riders are so, so scary. And normally, like in a Madison, for example, which is the more hectic event on the velodrome, when I went back to do the Madison, it just felt a lot easier to sort of move around the bunch. And I definitely gained a lot from a year on the road in that sense, as well as physically, for sure.
It's crazy that you would say that, considering most people find tracks so scary and something like the Madison and even the Pursuit, and seeing the types of crashes that can happen and did happen to your team at Tokyo. Most people think that the track is way scarier, but that just shows the intensity of the World Tour circuit, I guess, and how scary it really is. We will get to your track career because you've had an epic career so far and still so young. But I just want to bring it back to this week and kind of what's happening right now. We are just super fascinated by how you have to approach training when you've got a full racing calendar. For example, we said you've got 3 races this week. There'll be plenty of races coming up in the next month, including some of the big spring classics. How do you manage your training load? Are you doing what most pros do and just really quite easy with a few of these niggle rides like you explained? You've got 3 races this week. How are you managing the whole week in recovery?
It's interesting. I mean, this is only my second time doing this period. And last year I managed to, get through this month of the spring classics with a lot of success. Like we managed the fatigue really well, and a lot of it comes down to feel. And like I said, I have a different trainer this year, but my current trainer is really, really good and on top of monitoring fatigue and staying in contact. So, I mean, right now I'm actually still sort of getting rid of the fatigue from Paris-Nice, which is over a week ago. Last week I had a very, very easy week, and more or less just rode to feel for an entire week. And yeah, I'm still sort of shaking that out. So, I mean, tomorrow is it's not one of the harder classics, but the weather is predicting it's going to be a very, very, very hard day. So Thursday, if I'm looking forward to Thursday already, I'll probably be very, very, very easy day, considering the day after that is quite hard. I find this period is really strange. Like, it's not like a tour where you're just going every day and you got no option and everybody's building fatigue the same way. Some people might have a crash in the first 20K of a race, and it's day done, day over. That's all they, and then other people, you have 450 TSS that day. And so it's just such a strange period. And, you go Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and then you have 2 days off, and you go Wednesday, and then you have 3 days off and you go Sunday. So it's like, what do you do on those days? Because 3 days is too much to just like completely shut it down. So yeah, it's a hard one. And like I said, I'm lucky with my physiologist. We talk every morning, and it'll be interesting to see how we come out of the races this week and build through the week after, because ultimately the goal is to still be, it's to be good tomorrow, but I need to be good in 3 weeks' time in Roubaix as well,
So that brings us to the question: is which race are you targeting, and the team? What's your role in the next? Or you've got Flanders, you've got Roubaix. Are you doing Champion Gerard as well? Is that what you were doing on the Wednesday? Yep. And these 3 races this week. So what's your goal from the race point of view and your own personal?
Tomorrow is more or less we go all in for Dylan. It's a sprinters classic normally. And my role within that is more or less to be looking after, you know, our leader in positioning and probably taking up a bit of wind. But given that it's going to be such an open day tomorrow, it's a tough one to read like that. But I mean, for me personally, I'm really, really passionate about E3, Gent-Wevelgem, Dwars and Flanders. I just loved them so much last year, and I'm really, really hoping to do the best I can on one of those days. I think it's awesome. Like as soon as the classics were over last year, I've just spent the entire time thinking about getting back to the classics, and I'm so excited to be here, but I also need to be a little bit realistic at times and go, okay, well, last year I actually only finished one of those races.
You finished quite high.
Like I finished a couple of them. Yeah, I finished a couple of them out of time limit. Like, so I actually did ride the entire thing, but I think sometimes you've got to keep it a little bit in perspective. But one of those days between, I guess, tomorrow and the next Sunday, I'm looking for any opportunity I can get.
Absolutely love that. And you said to us off air how much your teammates and everyone built up the Spring Classics, and last year was your first time really experiencing them, and you just can't even describe what it's like. And we've tried on the podcast, because once you get over there, it's just it's such a phenomenon. But talk us through your experience last year, and then coming 7th at Wars with such an elite group, you know, and Mathieu van der Poel, just one of the strongest riders in the world the last few years. Tell us about that experience in that race.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is hectic, and it's awesome how much it builds. Like the crowds and everything will be good tomorrow, and they'll be good on Friday, and then they'll be a little bit better on Sunday, and then the following, like the whole thing just builds all the way through, and it's really exciting. And yeah, last year I had an amazing experience. I did my first altitude block beforehand, and then I came straight here, and so it was all new to me. It was all fresh, and like I said, I didn't exactly have the best classics, but I got through it really well, and I got so much load in. Like I think I had six days over 400 TSS in the block, which was like, for me before then, I'd only ever had like one day that was like over 400 TSS in my life, you know? Yeah. So you just can't really like explain how intense these races are. They're just like so full on. But yeah, Dwars, I was very lucky to get the opportunity to race the final there. I wasn't even meant to be in the break that day. I was trying to help Luke Durbridge to get into the break, actually, and we turned left at this corner, and I was on Nils Pollitt, who's a current German national champion. I was on his wheel, and he just went for it. He did like a 5-minute, just full gas, didn't even look over his shoulder once, and they blocked the road, and yeah, a group of us got away. And yeah, it was super, super hard. I mean, they kicked off quite early from the Pello, and a group of 5 or 6 came across to us with, I think, like 65 or 70K to go. And I managed to get over the last few little bergs before the final around Warragam. And yeah, I mean, it was such an awesome experience, and so good for my confidence at that point, because I knew I was in good shape. Like I was doing good numbers, and I was feeling really good on the bike, but obviously I hadn't made a final yet. And then when I made this final, it was awesome to see, like, you know, because you watch these guys on TV for years, and even guys similar age to me, you know, like Tom Pidcock and Ben Turner and guys like this, you're like, oh, like, what's the difference? Like, how do I get to what they're doing? And yeah, it was awesome to see, like, even though I'd been in the break the whole day, once they'd done their massive effort in getting away from the Pello at 80k to go or whatever, then you're almost on an even playing field. Like you sort of see, like once you're in this isolated group and everybody has to chop off, it's kind of like, okay, like you are human, like we are racing here. And that was amazing for my confidence. And I just ran out of legs. Like the last 10 minutes of that race was just like, you could like, even like a speed bump feels like a mountain at that point in time. It's just so hard. But yeah, I was super happy to get a top 10 there.
That's great insight so far into this actual race, which is what we really want to find out, because this is brilliant. I feel like I'm in the friggin' race with you at this stage. It's great. So you were saying that, you're looking around thinking, what does it take to be at this level? And here I am in a break with some of the best riders in the world that I've watched on telly. At what point in that chopping off did you think, shit, yeah, I belong here?
Well, they caught us on Hotonsberg, which is not exactly that much of a climb, but then it's really fast after that for the next 5 or 6K. And I hadn't had radio all day because the radios don't go that far. They're behind the peloton and we were in the breakaway. But then at the moment they caught me, I finally had radio again. And Matthew Hayman was on the radio and he was just like, you do not pull a turn, like you sit on, you do not do one turn. But we were coming down the main road at like 65, 70k an hour. We're flying, like going full gas. And it was so hard to not roll. Like you had to just roll because trying to sit on, like it just, yeah. So I started rolling and obviously I'd had a hard day at this point. But then we had quite a long cobble section to go, Maria Boristrat, which was difficult. And then, again, Hayman was just like, you hit the cobbles first wheel, just whatever you do, just turn right onto that cobble section first wheel and you'll be fine. So I did that. And then I got halfway through the cobble section. I'm thinking like, no one's coming around me here. Like I actually feel all right. And then the problem was after that, we had the last proper climb to go, which is normally used as a descent from the Eichenberg, but we used it as a climb this year in Dwaalstor, and it was really hard. And I knew like if I don't get over this, it's day over. It's still 55 or 60k to go at this point. And yeah, it was like one of these moments where like going across the top of this climb, I had to shift into the big ring. And like normally I was thinking like I was just holding the wheel, like just hanging on. Like I did my last pedal stroke about 10 times over the top of that climb. But I like shifted into the big ring. I like looked down and then I looked up and I was like still on the wheel. And then all of a sudden we like had crested it. And everybody that was in the break with me was gone except for Niels. And it was just us left. And then at that point I was like, oh, like I've made the final in this race. Like there was no question of whether I was getting to the finish then after that. Cause like obviously all the climbs had been at that point. I was like, oh, far out. Like I've made it here now. So yeah.
How important is confidence in your bike racing? Just explain to the listeners what tool confidence plays and what role it plays in the self-belief that, just give us a feel about that.
It's massive. Like even coming from the track, like I learned how to deal with that or how to use it as a tool, I guess, at quite a young age. On the track, because you get put into these situations when you're really young and all of a sudden you're on the start line to race for a world championship or a Commonwealth Games or something like that. And in that setting, for me, I learned how to do that with a group of people, like where I have absolute confidence in the guy next to me that he's going to do what he should and I'm going to do what I should for him. But that kind of changes a little bit now when you get put into these scenarios on the road where you are isolated, and then it is on you to have the belief that you can do it. But you can't just I think you can't just pull it out of thin air. Like you need to, well, for me at least, I spend a lot of time thinking about races for a long time out. And usually when I have a good result, it's because I've been thinking about that race for a really long time and sort of telling myself no, you can do this. But you have those battles with yourself all day long. Like I said, I had my last pedal stroke about 10 times in the space of 30 seconds. You're like, just one more pedal stroke. And you fight those battles with yourself all day. And like I said, with these finals and bunch sprints in particular, they're so scary. And you just have to have the confidence or the belief that you can do it and that you belong there. And I really struggled with that last year, actually, early last year in the bunch sprints in particular. I just didn't really feel like I belonged there. I didn't have the belief that I could do it. And then throughout the year, I kind of got the confidence. Oh no, you can do this. You can move through the bunch, and yeah, it is massive for sure.
Anybody in particular that stands out that's helping you with that, mentoring you and saying to you, no, you've got this? Is there anybody you could pinpoint that's helped you dramatically with that?
For sure. I mean, I'm super lucky to be in the team that I am, because I have so many Australian guys around me, which for me, I think is making a massive impact. Of course, it would be great to be in a European team and experience that, but for my development and someone that didn't really spend much time in Europe on the road, I've been to plenty of bike races now with Luke Durbridge, who's been over here for a long time, and also Michael Hepburn has been a massive help for me in that confidence. And Cameron Meyer, before he retired last year, he's always, always there checking in and helping me through the bits that I was struggling with. So I'm really lucky to have some older guys that I also have a lot of similarities with, ex-track riders, and yeah, it's been really, really good, and they've always been there to help me for sure.
It's such an important topic, and I really want to keep diving into this inside of having self-confidence that you belong, because you're in the top 7 here at this epic Spring Classics race, but you're against some really gun guys. When Matty Hayman gets on the radio and says, "Don't you do another fucking turn for the rest of the race," you sit in and conserve. And then, you've got Niels Pollitt or Matthew Van der Poel saying, "What the fuck are you doing when you're sitting at the back?" How do you handle that?
Yeah. Nah, I think in a very isolated scenario, exactly like that, I'd be very surprised if many people got bullied into, because of course you try, they will try. Of course they yell at you. If you try and sit on, they're going to yell at you. But at that point, it's all one-on-one. There's no, and also I suppose you get exposed to that from the very start of your career. Even in local crits in Melbourne or whatever, people are always going to yell at you. But for sure they try. Yeah, they absolutely do. And yeah, like you said, it was hard. I had to make a lot of those times I had to make a call. Heyman was telling me one thing, and then I wasn't necessarily doing that exact thing because it didn't feel right to do it at that moment. I was just it's actually way harder for me to try and skip turns here. But after the race here, I said to him, I was like, "Oh, look, sorry, I was doing that, but it just wasn't right." And he was like, no, absolutely. I can give you advice, but at the end of the day, you're the one in the position at the time. And if you make a call on doing something and you have a good reason as to why you're doing it, then that's all that matters.
That's brilliant. It's great to have someone like Matty Heyman in your corner who has actually won Roubaix. So you've got someone who's got genuine class there. So it's really good to have him in your corner. Is he as excited about the classics? We interviewed him a year or so ago. Is he still as excited about the classics as he's always been? Because he just loves it, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Like it's so special to have him, de-essing our team through these races. And that, like, I have a distinct memory of that race, as my first good result in Europe, my first good result in Belgium. And I just remember, like, I can remember every word he said, like, to me in that last hour and a half. Because, it's, like you said, it's Matthew Heyman in your ear saying, like, you're going to get a fucking result today. Like, it just, like, just makes you feel so good. But he absolutely loves it. And you can't keep him away from these races, I don't reckon.
So I want to keep going through your road racing year just to finish off. And I've heard you speak about the fact that, there's a lot of talk about that the one day races are probably your specialty, but you've spoken about the fact that, the Grand Tours are also the epitome and you really want to get yourself in good form for them. And you had a crack at the Vuelta last year, and it's really cool to hear this insight of what you're saying, in that the first part of the season or the year, you were really finding your feet and getting confidence of coming to those bunch sprints. And then we take it to stage 11 of the Vuelta and you're leading the train out, and you are flying through that last kilometre, and then you guys get the win. How good must have that felt in a Grand Tour to lead that sprint out and get the win for the team?
Yeah, it was really special. I mean, like you said, I was really finding my feet in being able to deliver that role throughout the year. And I mean, even just getting the opportunity to start the race, the Vuelta, with the team. And we started with a team's time trial, which is kind of like my dream, really. Like, when I first started watching cycling full on, was when this team, like when Green Edge was winning team's time trials. And, and I was lining up with Michael Hepburn, Luke Durbridge, Simon Yates in a team time trial. And there was unbelievable memories, actually. Yeah, but that particular lead out was just it was awesome, because we got really bad news that morning. Like, our GC rider had gotten COVID, had to go home. It was like the whole, major purpose as to why we were there was kind of gone. And, we still had the opportunities for the sprints with Caden, but we were all a bit like on the bus, a bit down the dumps, like Simon's going home. And it was a really, really long, boring day before the end of that stage. It was super hot, but for some reason we just clicked really well, and we held the right-hand side of the road for about 30k as a team. Like, Durbo was riding all day, and then he still held the side of the road for like 15k after being on the front all day. It was unreal. It was such an awesome stage. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
How amazing is Luke Durbridge? I mean, can we spend 30 seconds on this guy? he is unbelievable. I just love everything he does. He's the true team man, isn't he?
Absolutely.
What a talented rider, but yet he'll do what you just said, ride for the team till he dies. Imagine having him.
His ability to turn over kilojoules is is unbelievable. Like, he'll be on the front all day, and then he'll still have enough to like do a pull into like a corner with 10k to go. And like, when guys are just like running out of legs, he'll just find another gear. Even like the team's time trial we did last week in Paris-Nice, he did this peel from like 3k to go, and mind you, like, we'd gone full gas in this team's time trial, and he did like this like 90-second pull that was just like unbelievable. Afterwards I said to him, I was like, hey, like, I know you don't want to, but if you ever want to come back and do the team's pursuit, man, like that was some turn. He's like, yeah.
Can we just talk about that Paris-Nice team's time trial for a second? I know we're jumping around a bit, but give us an idea of how much time you were spending on the front. And I think there was Yates, Durbridge, Hamilton, Harper, Matthews, Sobrero, yourself. Is that the lineup? And
yep.
How were you working? Who was spending the most time on the front? And we do a bit of teams time trialing here, just as masters riders, and it's really intriguing. I'd love the guys to hear your take on how you came. You only lost by 4 seconds. How did you manage that day? How did it plan?
Just before you answer, Kell, a bit of context for anyone that didn't watch Paris-Nice, it was a different team's time trial in that only one rider had to cross the line and everyone got the same time. So, talk us through, Kell, how you went about the tactics, knowing that was the way it would go.
Yeah, I mean, when they announced that it was like only the time was taken on one rider, everybody was talking, there's all these different tactics you could do. But at the end of the day, in a triple T like that, when it's so flat and quite long, it doesn't really change much. Like in a normal triple T, when you have to finish with 4 guys, you still want to keep, at least 6 until very close to the end. Like you don't want to have people doing peels really early because it's the risk of then, running out of men, and it's just so much faster the more people you have in line. So yeah, I mean, in the end, we were we were planning to do all our peels at the end, more or less. And of course, Luke Durbridge is going to hold his own just fine, no matter what. Even if he's on his absolute worst day, he's still going to be unbelievable. We had a rough guide as to length of turns on the front, but you got to ride to feel. And having done so much team pursuiting before, it's probably something that comes really naturally to me. Is I don't ride to power at all in those scenarios. I just have speed. All I ride to is speed, and because the most important thing is delivery of speed and never losing speed, really. So whatever you're given, you need to make sure you maintain that. And I think a lot of people get really caught up in power and heart rate and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is speed. And I feel like that's something that I've got in my wheelhouse, is my ability to judge pace on speed. But yeah, I mean, the rough guide was, I think Yatesy was doing 15-second pulls, 20-second pulls. Durbile and I were probably pulling between 30 and a minute for most of it, and everybody else is just kind of, Sobrero was doing 25-second pulls, something like that. And yeah, it was a ripper team time trial. Like it was one of those ones where in the first 10, 15 minutes, you're thinking like, oh, have we gone out way too hard here? Or, but yeah, it's pretty awesome when you got a team, as strong as that that they're just going to hang on. Like even Yatesy complains about, obviously he's very, very small and we're very, very big, but man, he has some insane seated power for someone of his size. Like he's unbelievable in teams time trials. So good.
You have to be a GC rider, right?
This is true.
Yeah. We, as Dad said, we absolutely love the team's time trial event. And it's so much fun even to get to do it as an age group and masters athlete. If you had it your way, do you reckon you would include it in every tour, and especially the grand tours? Do you reckon it deserves its place?
It definitely deserves its place in the grand tours. I don't know if I would say every tour. Like obviously there's yeah, there's a fair few scenarios where, like, I don't know, you Basque Country, races like that. I don't know if it needs, but for sure, and definitely the big one is the World Championships. I think the World Championship team time trial was such an awesome event, and I haven't run into anybody in the cycling world that doesn't go, oh, they should put it back in the World Championships, or, you know, and the Olympics too. Like, when you go far enough back in the Olympics and you see it was like 8 guys, 100K, like, man, imagine how much of an awesome race that would be if they had that back in the Olympics. Especially now, because everyone's this resurgence of like individual pursuing and time trialing, and everybody is just like loves it again. Yeah, it would be sweet if it came back to, you know, all 3 grand. Well, I mean, there's one in the Vuelta this year, stage 1 of the Vuelta. But other than that, there's not enough, I don't reckon. So, yeah, I reckon we should definitely get some more out there.
Let's move on to your track career. You've achieved so much already, and I love the fact that you've said that you want to keep going back to it for the Olympic cycles. Roads, obviously, your focus right now, and you will do it throughout parts of the year, but you will definitely want to go to the Olympics each year. You already host such an impressive list of results: Com Games champion, 2 times world champion, Olympic bronze. Tell us what it was like to become world champion in the team pursuit at just 19 years old, were you?
I was 18. Yeah,
18.
I was 18.
Jeez, yeah, even better. How was that?
Yeah, that was, yeah, it was so special. And I guess, like, my entire track career, I don't think I'll ever forget any of those milestones. Like, they're just so special in my memory. Even my junior world championships was such an unforgettable time for me. And yeah, I mean, I was lucky in the sense that I was coming out of juniors just as the Rio Olympics were finishing, and the head coach, Tim Decker, gave me the opportunity to move to Adelaide at, 17, 18 years of age, and be a part of the elite program, and, give me the opportunity to sort of put my hand up for the World Championships the next year. And yeah, I just had an absolute ball. Like, I just absolutely loved it, and I was just in my element, and I love track cycling so much. And the team we had, or the team we still have, but the team we had at the time was just an amazing environment to be in. And I had the older guys around me, like Sam Welsford and Callum Scottson at the time, and Miles Scottson, and a few of these guys. It was really, really awesome for me to be around them. And yeah, we built really well into those World Championships in Hong Kong, and I was in probably one of the best shapes I'd ever been in. I reckon I was just feeling amazing on the bike, and I just felt really, really good. And yeah, we came away with the World Championship there, and I was lucky enough to get bronze in the individual pursuit a couple of days later as well. Which is an awesome experience for me as a first year senior. And yeah, you never take those World Championship experiences, not just the winning a world title, but the experience of going to a World Championships and representing your country is like, never take those for granted, I don't think.
And also, Cal, the preparation, you'll never, you obviously arrived there in great shape and great form, and that's a really hard and difficult thing to do, to ride the way you want to on the day that counts the most. How satisfied were you with your preparation, and just give us a little bit of an insight as to what it looked like?
Yeah, it was a really long build. I moved to Adelaide in October of 2016. And the World Championships were in February of 17. And I was a very fresh young junior, and I just got thrown in the deep end. And I just remember the first couple of months, I was like, just like crapping my pants every night about the next day. Like, you just like, how the hell am I going to do another one of these track sessions? You know, and, but yeah, it was really good. And I think a lot of it wasn't really like structured in a way that's like, you know, actually to get yourself, you know, it's not, there's not that much science, I guess, behind how we prepared for the first half of that build. It was just like, you know, the head coach was like, right, let's expose these young guys to a heavy training load and see how they do. And I managed to get through the first part all right. But then I started getting sick every now and then, and, you know, like I was still sort of building up my immunity and stuff like that. But, yeah, we ended up doing a nice build in Adelaide. After, you know, we'd done some World Cups. I went to my first World Cup in Colombia, and, you know, long travel, get sick, build again, another World Cup, get a little bit sick again, do another build. So the preparation wasn't actually like perfect, but the final run-in was really, really good. And yeah, I mean, at that time, I think it was just one of those moments where I was really, really happy and soaking up everything that I did at the time. And I think that was the main thing, is that I was just soaking it up really well and just like super happy. I think like when I look back on any part of my career, the best form I've ever gotten to is always when I've been enjoying it, I think.
How important do you think that is? It's such a great sentence you've just said, and we're big believers in, and if you're not enjoying something, you won't perform the way you want to. And people who are loving what they're doing have great outcomes. How important do you place on that enjoyment factor?
For me, I think last year I really cemented this lesson. I think I had a really tough year last year, actually, like in that space. Like I'd come off the Olympics in 21 and it didn't go anywhere near the way we wanted it to go. And I reckon I underestimated how much of a toll that took on me in that space. And I came straight to Europe from Tokyo. I never went home. I set up my life here, and then I stayed the entire winter of 21, 22 in Europe. And so I never saw my family after the Olympics. I never, you know, got that resolve of the 5 years that it took to get to the Olympics. And so that was sort of weighing over me, I think. And, you know, being a young man moving to Europe and trying to find your feet and set up your life and set up tax and apartments and all that sort of jazz. And you know, like, and then normal stuff, relationships and life and that sort of stuff. I really didn't understand how much that was affecting me. And I had a few moments really last year where, like Dwars Door is a perfect example, or the team's time trial at the Vuelta is when I really, really noticed it. Was I'd had a great prep. I overperformed for what I was expected to do. We had a good result. And then I was just sitting on the bus afterwards, like I got good numbers on my training peaks. I performed well. I had, you know, I enjoyed it while I was doing it. It was ticking all the boxes, but then I just wasn't not feeling anything about it. I was just like, you know, I didn't get that feeling of like, I performed well today. And, yeah, I think at that moment I realized, okay, like there's something not quite right here in my life. And yeah, then after having a nice end to the season and actually going back to Australia for the first time in over 2 years and seeing my family and finally getting to show them the bronze medal from the Olympics and just going back to Australia, really, things started to change again, and I started to notice like, oh, okay, like I'm happy. I'm starting to piece together like what things in my life actually do make me happy. And I guess that's not always, getting a result on the bike. And that I found that last year. I did get decent results, and I was like not getting that happiness feeling. And since I started training back again at the end of last season, I haven't enjoyed riding my bike more in my life, I don't think. Like every day I go out, I'm like, I just love it no matter what. And yeah, I think the feeling I get at the moment racing is just completely different to last year, for sure. I cannot stress it enough how different it feels when you have the other things in your life in the right space and you actually are happy.
How do you make that balance right when you are still back in Europe? Do you spend more time, I don't know, talking to family or FaceTiming family or something? Or how do you make sure you're keeping that up?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the staying in more regular contact with my family and friends back home is helping me a lot. And I guess there's some things that automatically get ticked off. Like I'm a bit more settled now because my apartment and everything is now set up from last year. But yeah, that's a big one, staying in contact with family and just knowing knowing the signs, that you're starting to get a little bit down, or I guess, I have a great sports psychologist that I've been working with for years. And he's a massive help for me. And just little things, like my guitar. It's nice to go home and play my guitar a bit, and I find that helps me. And just regular life things, I guess. And I guess also, like I said, I've got an absolutely amazing team around me, and they all understand what it's like to be a young Aussie in Europe. So I've always got those guys to turn to as well, which is really nice.
Have you found in your young career already that if you got a perspective of where you are and how good a rider you are and the fun factor that you are doing what you love, riding your bike in races, and you probably felt you were born to do this. Is it hard to appreciate where you are, or is it just still a journey that you're kind of finding your way? Talk us through that.
Definitely. Last year, I did not feel like I was living the dream, I guess. But having come back and seeing things through a fresh set of eyes, everything feels that way now. Like I have this, I guess, I feels like I have a much more broader view of it now. And when I see like the classics coming up, or even just little things like just being at home in Andorra and just training in the mountains and stuff, it's like, man, this like 10-year period of my life is just, or looking down the barrel of a 10-year period of my life of living over here and doing this sort of stuff is just awesome. And like I said, like going out on the bike every day, I just like have this overwhelming feeling of like, this is actually amazing getting to do this right now. It's a really cool thing. And I'm definitely not going to take it for granted. That's for sure.
The way you're talking is just shows such maturity, and it's so cool to hear that it does obviously come from yourself, but also that help would come from working with something like a sports psychologist to really help give you that perspective. It's so impressive to hear, and it'd be hard for athletes to, like you said, stare down the barrel of a potential 10-year career and go, nah, I'm really excited for what's to come and not feel too daunted by that. And I know that you are potentially looking ahead to keep cycling and keep making your way all the way to Brisbane, right? That's a long-term goal for you, and that's in 2032. So that's another 9 years away that you're pretty committed to making this work and getting as much out of your career as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when that all got announced, when Brisbane 32 was announced, I was like, wow, that would be a nice way to round things out. I'll be 34 years old. Maybe I keep going after that. I don't know, but
Yeah,
it'd be pretty.
a lot of people do.
It'd be pretty cool to. It'd be pretty cool to finish it off there, I reckon.
I do want to just quickly jump back to that Tokyo experience. You said that it was disappointing to what you guys expected, which is so funny to say, because I know that you're appreciative of the fact that you got a bronze medal at the Olympics, but you guys did, being world champions, did expect to be able to get gold in that infamous Alex Porter crash where his handlebar snapped and crashed at 65 k's an hour. Really, rattles the team, and you guys don't end up with the performance you want. Now, back in hindsight, that was almost coming up to 2 years ago. How have you processed that, and how do you look back on that result and those games?
It's funny. It kind of ties into two things that we've said already. Like, I didn't respect or feel any attachment at all towards the medal at all. For a really long time afterwards. And it was only after I got to show it to my family that I felt like it was over. And I got the feeling of like the weight of the Olympics was off my shoulders only once I'd shown my family the medal. So, it definitely wasn't the result we were after. And the way things went, we literally never got to see where we were at as a team. Once Alex had crashed, he was done, and he was a massive, massive part in our team. And we did an 8-week staging camp before the Olympics, and he by far best on ground across the 8 weeks. He was in the form of his life. Like, I've never seen. He was absolutely flying. So it was a big shame to see him, not be able to continue. And, then the next couple of rounds, like, we had all sorts of extra issues that came along with the initial handlebar snap. I rode 3 different bikes across 3 rounds of team pursuiting. I didn't ride the same bike twice for the Olympic Games, but looking back on it now, I mean, I look back on the 5 years before it more than I look back on the period of time, the 10 days we were in Tokyo or whatever. And it's one of those things, like, it's so hard to, like, no one outside our little team will ever know how we really were moving. We could have been going terribly. We could have been going amazing. No one will ever know. But as a group, we know exactly how we were. And I know between Sam Wellsford, Plappy, and myself, the 3 guys who are still going from that team, we're, like, very, very hungry to go after another one. It's exciting. Yeah. Hopefully Paris. I mean, we actually haven't ridden together since the Olympics, which is pretty scary to think about, but certainly in the future we haven't forgotten about the Olympics, and there's a lot of unresolved unfinished business, we should say.
Yeah, it's super motivating to hear you talk like that, and all of Australia be unbelievably rapt to see. Funny, I say this a lot. You get what you deserve, but that was kind of one of the exceptions to the rule, I reckon. Things like that, mechanicals. It's just unfortunate, but it is part of. It's not really part of track cycling. It's never really happened that many times, but you never know what's going to happen next, and you really have to take every opportunity when it's handed to you, don't you? And this is another example. You've now got to wait 4 years to almost redeem what you felt was yours. How motivated are you to put things right?
Yeah, like, super, super motivated. I mean, like I said, it took me a long time to actually take that weight off my shoulders of the Olympic Games. And I know as an entire organization, we're kind of juggling we're trying to learn the balancing act of how do we manage professional road careers and the track, and being in an organisation where all our equipment and everything is based in Australia, it's a logistical nightmare. But deep down, I know that the core of our team, men's track endurance, like the work that we had done leading into Tokyo was just extraordinary. And I as far as races go, like that's the one. That's the absolute one that has always been the one you want to win. And I couldn't think of anything else I'd really rather do. And, you know, in team pursuing and the Madison, there's a really special group of guys from our nation that are going for these events. And, to me, it means so much more than just like the result, or it's such a feeling. It's such an amazing feeling when you do it with a group of guys. It's like you've just been working together. You know everyone is just so hungry for it, and you know you pull on the green and gold and you get it done. And we've had a taste of it at the Commonwealth Games and a couple of world records and world championships, but you know there's a big one missing there, and it's not going to. That feeling won't go away until we get it done.
It's bloody awesome. Kell, your insights today have just been phenomenal. It is just the stuff we love, and the listeners are just going to relish in it. You've got a really exciting period of racing coming up. We can't wait to watch you. Just looking a little bit further ahead, do you have any insight from the team about a potential Grand Tour that you might be prepping for, or is it too early in the season? You'll find out a bit later if you're going to be aiming for one of the three.
No, I think this year it's not looking likely. Obviously the Giro is pretty well off the cards, doing a big classics prep, and the World Championships are in August this year, and that's a pretty massive goal on the track. And that kind of means it's not great. Doesn't really work to do the Tour de France because you're trying to prep for the track, and the Vuelta is directly after the Track World Championship, so you're probably not quite in the correct condition to be doing a 3-week Tour of Spain. It's not looking likely, but I'm still hopeful. I mean, the Vuelta, I think if that was an opportunity to do that, especially with the team's time trial, stage 1 again, I would love to do that. But yeah, I suppose we'll have to see once we get out the other side of spring and get through those summer races, like 1 week stage races in June. I guess we'll go from there.
Any final questions from you, Dad? Go.
It's interesting because when I hear you talk about your year ahead, it impresses on me that this period right now is your period, isn't it? It's the Spring Classics period is kind of because you've got the track stuff happening, which is going to interfere with the Grand Tours and a lot of the other summer events. So it's really the Spring Classics is kind of the period that you're gunning for right now. Is that kind of accurate? Yeah,
absolutely. I spent as soon as I ended my season in October last year, I had a break, and then we said, right, we go all in for trying to get into good enough shape to have a good spring. I mean, this for me personally, but also as a rider just within the team, this is where I can get a lot of good work done, and I'm passionate about it, and this is really the meat of my season, the spring. I guess coming into tomorrow and the next 3 weeks, this is the biggest part of my season for sure.
Whew, that gets us excited to think about what you guys could potentially do the next month. It's going to be so good to watch you guys race. One final question from me. It's a bit off the cuff, but it was a fact I wanted to check that in your team pursuit, or maybe it's just your best 4-minute power, but you ride for 4 minutes, or in your guys' case, 3:49. We heard that you hold over 600 watts for the entire race, or your best 4-minute power is 600 watts. Is that correct?
Yes, for the team pursuit, I've done over 600 for the TP. Yeah.
Jeez, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is just astonishing.
I think the fastest overall time we ever did, which was in a trial in Melbourne, mid-COVID. I think it was somewhere like 6:15 or something like that for 3 minutes 40 something. Yeah.
When you look back at your data, what are you doing for the time on the front? If you're doing 600 for the whole 4 minutes, what are your numbers on the front when your turn comes?
Yeah, lead TP power is 650 to 750, depending on a few things. But yeah, lead TP power is around that. 700 watts is kind of like I guess we're aiming for, say, north of 3,900 watts per CDA, something like that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's large. It's quite large.
Yeah. That's a good way to finish, mate. Well, we're heading to Belgium next week, and we can't wait to see you. We will be on the Quaremont, seeing you come around 3 times. We'll be screaming your name for sure when we see you. We'll be there for Paris-Bay as well. We can't wait to get over there, and pumped for the next few races ahead. We can't wait to see all your results and see how you and all the boys go. So good luck with it from us. And thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, wicked. Thanks so much for having me. I'll see you guys in Belgium.
Anything from you, Dad?
No, I'm just really rapt that you give us some time, Kell, and you've got such a future in riding the bike, because you've got your head screwed on incredibly well. And we've interviewed quite a lot of people over the 160 episodes of podcasts that we've done, and it's really refreshing to have someone who's motivated and is in love with bike riding as you. And as we've talked about during the podcast, the people who love what they're doing end up being really good at it. So keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to have all of our listeners watch with huge enjoyment as to seeing your progress over the journey. So thanks very much, mate, for taking the time, and good luck for this next month.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. It's nice to jump on the podcast, and safe travels over to Belgium, I guess.
Appreciate it. That's it for this episode. Thanks always for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.